Hey, Leisha, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. So, for the listeners' benefit, I always give the listeners a little bit of, what's happened thus far in our conversation. Well, Leisha
hmm
is in an RV right now in the Pacific Northwest. She's in Washington State, and she's in the middle of a storm. So, when
Yeah.
she first said that, I thought, oh crap, are we going to have to reschedule this? But she's a trooper and she's sitting here delivering the goods, delivering the content like a pro in the middle of a storm.
Actually, it's like divine timing because the moment you hit record, I swear the clouds just cleared and the sun just came out. So I think we are good.
La.
I know.
Oh my God, amazing. Donovan, cut in some kind of like angelic music, some like opera singers or whatever.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's what happens here on the Hair Game podcast. What's kind of ironic about this is I look outside my window and it's really glum and gloomy. So you took the sun that we had to offer, which is all
Yeah.
good. So I'm going to introduce you. You are Leisha Thompson. You are Leisha Sisson on Instagram.
I
That's spelled
am.
Scisson. All this listeners are going to be in the show notes. You also run the Traveling Hairstylists Instagram,
hmm
and you're a hairdresser, founder of the Traveling Hairstylists, full-time RVer with your hubby and pets,
hmm
and blogger. That
hmm
all just sounds like so many questions. As a podcast host, I read that and it's like seeing a big, beautiful buffet, and I'm just going to
Mm.
feast on this buffet. There's so many questions I have just right out of the gate, but I'm going to try to be sequenced with my questions
Okay.
so it makes sense for the listeners. So let's start with where you're from and how you got into the hair industry to begin with.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Dayton, Ohio, so Midwest, and I've been doing hair 13 years now. And honestly, I had a really traditional start into the industry. I didn't come from a family of stylists, but I did a trade school when I was in high school. So I was one of those who was able to graduate with my cosmetology license and jump right into working in the salon, which was a really great opportunity and kind of really fast tracks you. And I worked in a
Okay, that's
salon.
amazing. I'm going to pause you. I'm going to
Yeah.
pause you right there. That's amazing that you're able that, and we've had other guests who have been able to do that, which is such an efficient way to do it.
hmm
Why at such a young age did you like hair?
I think
Did you
I've
have like a
always,
friend or something who was doing it?
no, actually, I mean, this might sound kind of silly, actually, but I've always been really into just creative things. I always knew I was not going to have probably a traditional career. I just never saw it for myself. And this is going to be the silly part, but I used to watch a lot of Project Runway as a young kid and like America's Next Top Model. And the thing that I actually was more interested in is how they put these looks together. I just thought it was fascinating, and it was just so cool to me. And that really was what kind of inspired me to be more interested in like what the hair industry was. So when I was first licensed, I was working also with a lot of local photographers. I did like Dayton Fashion Week. It was so fun to me to be able to not only do hair with just people in a salon, but also kind of take it into a little bit of an editorial sense and do hair really creatively and avant-garde and things like that. I never really went anywhere crazy with it. It was purely just something I did for fun, honestly. And that's what kind of inspired me to even join the industry to begin with.
And were you good at it in the beginning?
Um, I mean, I felt like I had a little bit of like a good natural skill to it. I was really good with people, like talking to people, like consultations, even when I was like working behind the scenes of, like I said, like these small town fashion weeks used to be so quick with things. I was really good at hearing what was expected and being able to like translate that. So I think that was kind of my specialty from the beginning. And I think that's why I ended up really leaning into my hair career because being able to talk to people well and really make them feel heard and seen and consultating, that's such a gift, to be able to do that in the salon, and doesn't always come naturally to people. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to really, you know, caress that, I guess. So yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you get your license, and where did you go first?
First, I went into a commission salon, and that salon I actually was at for 6 years. I built up a pretty good clientele there. I was really good at like selling retail. I was good at, retaining clients. And eventually, by the end of the 6 years, I did kind of get to a place where I felt a little like I didn't really know what was next for me. Like I was kind of struggling with like, okay, where do I want to take this next? Like I feel like I had tapped out my resources there. And I actually took a little bit of a break, and this just kind of all intertwines into my story well. And my husband and I were both making career changes, and we actually took a 6-month hiatus and went into the RV and road tripped all over the country. We went to like, I don't know, like 30 states. I think we also spent a couple months in Canada. So we kind of took that little hiatus, and then we came back, and I started then in a rental salon. So, and then that kind of moved into me getting into my loft, which is where I was up until the end of 2022.
Got it. Okay, so in Ohio as well. So when you did the kind of round trip tour, give or take, I don't know if it was officially round. I am kind of interested in that. Okay, so the hiatus that you took is kind of what everybody dreams about doing, right? Just packing up, hitting the open road. And the fact that you're married and I think you have pets, I saw, that makes it like a family affair and it makes it more fun, right? You've got someone to talk to. Like hitting the open road by yourself may be a little weird. I don't want to say it's weird because, I mean, that sounds kind of appealing too, but it could be maybe a little weird. But hitting the open road with your family is a whole different thing and just sounds so inviting. So where did you go? Well, hold on. You said your husband had a career shift as well. So I guess he just left his job or something like that?
Yeah,
so
he
you
had
guys
been working.
happened to be...
He had been working in customer service for, gosh, like 8 years at that point. And for anyone who has worked in in a managing customer service point with because it was for like a grocery chain, you just know how that gets eventually. So he was also feeling like the same as I was. We were like, okay, like we're just ready for something a little bit fresh, a little bit different. So he made a change as well and went into landscaping actually. But we kind of just decided, because I had this dream for a while, I was like, I really just want to like take some time to travel. We all kind of talk about that, and we had gotten to this point where we were really comfortable. We were like, let's just do it. Like, this is the perfect time to do this, when we're kind of in between and getting ready to start these like fresh new changes. So yeah, we both got in, packed the pups up, and we started south, because at that point it was like March of that year, and then we kind of eventually worked all through the Northwest, all the way to the coast. Like I said, we also spent some time in Canada. So that was a really it was such a good reset for us. Because then coming back, I feel like we almost had a whole new perspective on what our goals were, where we were going with things, like everything.
Yeah. And okay, so you started south, and how far south did you get? Did you go to Florida?
Yeah, all the way to Florida. We spent a lot more time on like the Gulf side of Florida than the Atlantic side, but that's the prettier side. Sorry to anyone who lives on the other side of Florida, but yeah.
Is that right? Really? I didn't know that. I mean, I think so. I've been to That's really interesting. I've been to both, but it's been so many years, and I'm anything but an expert on Florida. But that's really interesting that the Gulf, I guess, yeah. What makes it more beautiful? I'm just curious.
I think it's just the Gulf
or why did
side.
You like it more?
Yeah, I just think it's like more about the beaches, the water, the sand. Like, it's such soft white sand. Like the water's so clear versus like the other side. It's just a very different feeling, I guess. I don't know. And I also think there's a lot more like really quieter oceanside towns on the Gulf side, which is just more my vibe. But yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. Okay, so and then you made your way north, and which side? Kind of back into the west or to the east?
No, to the west then at that point. So we kind of worked our way southwest, and then we kind of went up like almost like into like Minnesota, Wyoming, Montana, and we kind of went into Canada, and then we kind of came back down on the like West Coast side. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So it was kind of yeah.
And what would you say were your top, let's call it 2 spots that you guys stayed?
So we definitely fell in love with Utah. My husband and I love mountains. Utah has, I think, some of the best national parks. There are some others that are really good, but we just loved the like Red Rocks, the Arches, Bryce Canyon. Like that specific area was just, we didn't expect that because we did this back in 2017, by the way. So this was kind of before like it was super trendy to like van life things, you know? So we were definitely like the young ones everywhere we went when we were like camping and things like that. And Utah was just like, I didn't know anything about Utah besides like I know there's like a lot of Mormons, and that was about it. I had no idea the landscapes, the parks, all the things, and it's absolutely beautiful and just looks nothing like anything else. We also really loved Montana, Glacier National Park area, just the wide open, massive mountains, and it's just really beautiful. I mean, it's big sky, makes sense. But yeah, so those are probably like top 2.
Right. Well, I've been to Utah, and it is awesome. I've never been to Montana. Kind of have to go there. These places have just exploded since COVID.
Oh, totally.
The housing prices have gone nuts, have doubled and tripled in some cases, and a lot of people have gone off there.
Yeah.
So it's super cool so you make your way back to Ohio, and you got yourself a studio, I think you said. And did your clients, you were gone for 6 months?
Yeah. I was gone for 6 months. And your clients, So when I came back, honestly, I was kind of more interested in almost not having a lot of my clients follow me, if that makes sense. I just think the salon that I started with, it was a very like you do it all kind of thing. And I think I was looking at that point to actually, I don't know, almost kind of specialize maybe a little bit more in my business. I was looking for to give a little bit of a different experience than the salon that I had started with and grown with. So there were a handful of clients that I really enjoyed and they did come over with me. But for the most part, and it was kind of a risky place to be because I went into rental because I just wanted, I don't know, at that point, I think I just wanted independency. And I was like, I just want to try this. Like, I feel like I had done what I needed to do as a commissioned stylist. So now I kind of want to like get in the world of being a renter, but I did kind of go into that with not like a full clientele, not even like half of a full clientele. So it was very risky. And I pretty much kind of worked my ass off in like that first like 8 months, really just diversifying how I marketed, connecting with people, networking, still a lot of like almost grassroots marketing at that point. And at that point too, like digital marketing was really taking off. And I just really went all in to get myself to a good place comfortably with being a renter and kind of almost starting a little over really too.
Yeah, with the clientele for sure.
Yeah.
And a really interesting comment that you had about maybe wanting to call some of the clients that you didn't want. Maybe not because of their personalities, maybe because of their personalities, but maybe more because you didn't want to do that type of service anymore. Whereas at the commission salon you were at before, it was a take everybody who comes sort of a situation, which makes a lot of sense. Okay, so take us from there. So you're an independent hairdresser. You're doing your thing, and then how did you get from there to being in an RV traveling around?
Yeah. So when I came back and I went into renting, so this was about, I guess, 4 or 5 years that I did that. And again, I kind of got to this place where I think I thought that was like what I needed. And then I kind of got to this really good place in my business. It was like thriving. I felt really good about it. I was making good money. And I still just wasn't feeling fulfilled. And I'm like, okay, what gives? Like, what am I missing here? Like, what am I looking for?
The call of the open road.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like a Willie Nelson song needs to come in now.
Oh my gosh. I think simultaneously, though, I was thinking about how much I really loved traveling, and how I think the thing I was like really looking for was being able to have even more flexibility and freedom than what I had as a renter even. But simultaneously, I was starting to realize that there was such a major hole in our industry, which really kind of cycled around leaves. And there just wasn't anybody who really talked about it. There's really not a lot of strategies. There wasn't really any resources. And I had watched when I was at my first salon, I actually watched a stylist, a coworker that I was with, who got in a really minor car accident, but it was enough to injure her shoulder. And so, she was really like had a full clientele. She was someone I really looked up to, and she had to take a leave. And at that point, it was going to be 8 weeks. So that was already kind of a tough, pill to swallow, like something she wasn't expecting. It's not like she was preparing for that. Most of the time, if it's something like that, you're not. So she went on 8 weeks. She had her checkup to come back. They found that they actually needed to do another surgery. She had to be out for another 8 weeks. So 4 months total. And when she eventually came back after that, she lost almost all of her clientele and had to start almost completely over.
Did she have disability insurance?
She didn't. So that was kind of what I mean. She didn't have a lot of resources. She wasn't really prepared. And so that was kind of something I was really thinking about at the same time as more in present stage, my best friend, who's a stylist, was pregnant. And she was kind of talking about just how it felt a little stressful for her because she's trying to plan to be a parent for the first time. But she's like, I just don't know what to do with my clients. I feel like I don't have enough people to send them to because everybody is also kind of full and doing their own thing. And she's like, I just don't know how to like even go about this. And I'm just trying to like worry about how to be a parent for the first time, So these were all things that I was really hearing and kind of realizing that there really wasn't a lot in our industry. And so that's kind of when just like kind of one day, like in 2022, early 22, I had kind of had this idea where I'm like, what if there was a way for stylists to hire out experienced stylists to basically fill in for their leaves, whether they have some type of short-term disability, paid family medical leave or not. There's kind of 3 things that really come to mind with that. And it is the loss of income. It's also securing your business and nurturing your clientele. Like these are the things that come up when we know we might have to be out on a leave. And these were the very things that I felt like could be fulfilled with the traveling hairstylist. So that's kind of where that idea was born from. And then I decided I wanted to go all in on it because there were so many pieces of it. I'm like, can this work? Does this work? I don't know. Like, would people be interested in this? So I left my suite. I left, my husband and I left our hometown. We moved back into an RV at the end of 2022, and we set out to basically go on this journey for me to really see like what this could be. I wanted to take a year and see if I could make this into something, see how it would respond, how it could work. And so now it's been almost a couple years, I guess maybe a little in between a year and a half and a couple years. And I am like all in on this. And I've really realized that this is something that is so, so, so needed for our industry. So.
Okay. So I want to get some details here.
Yes.
So when you say a traveling, I'm trying to connect the dots. So you're talking about the need for a beauty professional to maintain their business through a leave, may it be medical necessity because they got hurt, or having a baby, or any number of reasons why they might want to take a leave, and so your idea was that maybe they can essentially hire a short-term, beauty professional to come in and supplement, their ability to service their clients. And this beauty pro we're calling a traveling hairstylist. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
So it's
they
kind of like traveling nurses a little bit, like through
exactly.
COVID, we all heard about
Yeah.
traveling nurses, right?
Yeah.
And traveling nurses were making so much money because the hospitals were, at least in certain areas, the hospitals were
Mhm.
short of staff. Okay, so how does it work? So let's say,
Yeah.
so you said that you've been trying it. Have you been trying it with your own clients? Because you said you got to the point where you had a thriving business in your
Mhm.
studio. And are you trying to take a leave and have somebody else come in and service those clients while you're kind of still controlling, quote unquote, your business?
So no, actually, my husband and I, at the same time that we left to start this, we also knew that when we left Ohio, we weren't planning to come back. We were kind of interested
Ah,
in making a full relocation. So I actually decided to completely leave behind my business that I had built there, and I really started this from scratch. And so I'm really kind of being in the role of fulfilling other people's leaves because I needed to see how that could work. Like, I think in the beginning, um, it was a very organic kind of situation. We just basically drove to Phoenix, Arizona, and I was like, I have kind of what I want to say to people, but I don't have a network of people yet. Nobody knows what this is. Nobody knows who I am. So I really had to kind of be very organic in the sense I just walked into salons. I found salons all over the area of Phoenix, and I kind of looked at like their team, like if someone, I even kind of was like looking like, is somebody pregnant? Like things like that. Like I really was like scoping everything out. And I had some marketing materials that I kind of printed up, and I just walked into salons and I introduced myself. And I was like, if your owner or manager is open to having a conversation, I would love to chat, whether it be now or we can meet for coffee at another time that's more convenient. And I did a lot of that. I had a lot of people who gave me weird looks. I had people who were like, I don't know, I'm not interested. I had people who just never said anything. But I had a couple of people who were like, this is interesting. And that's all it took. And I had some conversations with some owners. And I will be so forever grateful to the very first salon contract that I got to fulfill with them not knowing anything about how this could work. But they were just as into the idea as I was. And ever since then, there has kind of been this like momentum of like, okay, like, this can work. So I just need to keep going forward with this and keep like networking as much as I can. And so after I fulfilled that one, I left and went to Asheville, North Carolina. Same thing. I wasn't going there for any particular contract that had reached out.
okay,
Yes,
hold
that's
on
good.
one second.
Okay.
So let's talk about the contract that you're talking about
Yeah.
with the salon. What does that
Yes.
contract say generally?
So it's basically me fulfilling. And so with that first one, this was a commission stylist that I had fulfilled in. So it was really more, rather than it being so much a partnership with me and the stylist, it was more of a partnership between me and the owner, just because she was a commission and she was having a baby.
Hmm.
And so we kind of worked out sort of like a contract where I would be there for a temporary time. I was fulfilling this leave on a daily rate, because this is the thing too, is I work very differently than, I'm not like a commission employee because of the way that I go about this. I have to stay an independent contractor in all of these states. So just with
Okay.
legalities, tax things, all those kind of stuff. So I work as a daily rate. So we kind of set a rate that worked for both of us. We set hours that worked for us. And I was able to be kind of like added into the system so that I could see like what her formulas were for some of her clients, like different notes that she had, so that I could basically just step in and be as much of an extension of the stylist as possible to fill in for her clients, to kind of just keep them retained, because a lot of the other stylists were full. So the
Right.
worry was like, okay, well, they might have to go. We might have to outsource them. And then there's just always that chance, like, what if they don't come back, or what if things just get kind of
Right.
lost in the mix, or things like that. So
Hmm.
so that was kind of just in
So you're
simple terms what that looked like.
right. Okay. So you're temping kind of right. Like an
Yeah.
office
Yeah.
needs you need a short term payroll person to supplement and okay. So that
Hmm.
makes sense. And then is the is there a time frame put on it early on? Because I know how these things go. I mean,
Yeah.
one's idea is that it's going to be 6 weeks, and then 6 turns into 8, or 6 turns into 4, or it
Exactly.
changes, right?
Yeah, and I think so specifically because right now what I can cater to is maternity leaves and planned medical leaves, just because I don't have enough people on my team to be able to do like a quick leave of an accident. Eventually, yes, that's kind of like what I want people to get this to, but at the stage that it is now, that's kind of the two things that we focus on. And so, especially even too for maternity leaves, a lot of stylists almost need that like extra week before their due date, because they're so, you just are going through so much, your body has changed, but also what if you go early, and then those like last few clients at the end kind of, you know what I mean? Like they were planned for that, and now things have to change. But just like you said,
And then you have a baby in the salon.
Yeah, and then there's so many instances
Nobody wants to have a baby
where,
in the salon.
yeah, exactly. There's so many instances too where you think you only need this amount of time, but maybe you need more, like 8 weeks. Typically, I would say the standard of like what I've fulfilled for maternity leaves has been 12 weeks actually, so a full 3 months, and some of those were like a week or two before the due date, and then obviously the rest of the leave at that point. So I think even there is sort of a set amount that we try to go off of, but we take those things into consideration, because if you're going to utilize our services, you might as well utilize it to your best benefit, so that you're not running into any situation where, what if you need a little bit longer than you thought, or what if you do need more time to prep for a surgery than you thought, or more time to heal? Like there's just so many variables that can come up. So it's nice that you can have somebody already there to sort of be fulfilling what you need them for. So yeah.
Sure. Okay, so then you said that you went to North Carolina. Why from Arizona to North Carolina? Why not from Arizona to Denver?
Honestly, it was just a place that my husband and I wanted to go. And because I was in a place that I was still building this, I was like, well, we might as well just like pick the places we want to like be for a few months while I kind of build up my name. So that was really why we went to Arizona. That's why we ended up going to North Carolina. And there I actually had such a like really kind of crazy situation where I happened to kind of come in right as a stylist was finding out that she had breast cancer. And she was a very established stylist, and it was very unexpected. She was only in her 30s, so it was a really tough situation. And so I worked with her owner a lot in that as well. And I kind of came in almost just like at perfect timing to start to just jump right in and be able to fulfill her clients. So that was another one that was like a few months. And then she slowly was like trying to just come back for like a day or two after that. But it was just a way, like she already had 8 weeks booked out of clients. So it was kind of a way for me to be able to just like step right in, and those clients didn't have to be, and some of them, there's always going to be clients who are like, no, I'll wait, like, or clients who are going to be like, oh, like, give me a little bit of time to think about it. And that's really why it's so important to me, like for my team members and for me, that we're experienced stylists. We're not coming out of school learning all of these things and jumping into this. Because it's really important to be super adaptable, to be really versatile, to be able to like really understand how what happens from the moment that client comes in to when they leave with that stylist. What kind of experience are they giving? How do they formulate? Like it's so important to be able to like really understand and adapt to all of those, because it changes. You know what I mean? So, and I think it just takes a little bit of... Yeah, I think it's important to have some experience in the industry already to kind of be able to step right into that role.
No doubt about it. I mean, it seems like a harder role to fulfill than you're just being, having your clientele behind your chair, because you've got everything down. Now you're coming into somebody else's world. You are not supposed to, take the clients ultimately, but you're supposed to try to do as close as possible to what the hairdresser you're replacing does. And everybody has their own little ways of doing things that the clients are used to. And you have no knowledge, very little background about the personalities of the clients necessarily, so on. So it seems very difficult. So maybe I missed it, but how did you find the gig in North Carolina? And was it just
Again,
fortuitous?
it was just similar as to Arizona. I just started walking into the
You just
salons
walked
and
in.
just kind of, yeah. So like I will say these first couple contracts that I'm talking about are very different than where it's at today. There is a lot more like prep today.
Okay.
There's a lot more, like I would say, like as someone coming to use our services today, because now that's kind of how this business works. Now it's all on requests. So how I decide where to go is a request that is wanting to fulfill my services. So for instance, like I just finished up my time here in Washington. She was somebody who is on a maternity leave. We've been in contact for like the last 6 months when she first reached out. And how I start everybody off is you fill out just a really basic form that just kind of tells me like who you are, where you're at, what kind of services you do, how much do you work, what's like your average daily rate that you are currently bringing in, like all of these things. And then I get on a discovery call with every single person before we do anything. And this, I think, is honestly the most important piece of what I do, because there are so many variables to what makes this partnership work, and everybody's business is so different. Every location has a very different cost of living, a very different clientele. So I need to be able to make sure that I can fulfill what they need, but I also need to make sure that it works for them. Because I've had some discovery calls where they've gotten on and they're only like interested in, like they didn't have like a very full clientele. So like I might have like 1 day a week of work. And that's kind of where I would be like, okay, in this case, I actually think our services wouldn't be best fit for you, but here are some other strategies to kind of, that I think would be better for you personally as someone who's kind of still building. You don't have like established clientele quite yet. So I do think there are some things that matter when kind of taking into consideration, like if our services are right for you, because the whole point of this is that it doesn't cost anything out of your pocket. The point of this is that your clients are paying for this service. And there are opportunities where using this as a daily rate, if there are leftover amounts each week, it stays with you. It's basically a way for you to earn income while we are filling in for your clients. So, and
Okay.
once we kind of, yeah, go ahead.
So I'm glad you went there, because
Yeah.
the devil's often in the details, right? So it just generally the idea that there is someone within a network, that I'm assuming that you're trying to build a network of beauty professionals who want to have this kind of a work experience, and just like you've been doing. So for the stylists that you're filling in for, I'm first thinking about it from their standpoint.
Yeah.
They, of course, want somebody to take care of their clients,
Yeah.
who isn't going to steal their clients, so that when she comes back from breast cancer, and I experienced that with my wife, I understand how it is. It's difficult. You
Yeah.
don't know how much time it's
Yeah.
going to be, et cetera. But my wife, if she was a hairstylist, she could have gone back into the salon, everything worked out, so to speak.
Yeah.
And she could have gone back into the salon after maybe 2 or 3 months. She wants to make sure that she's parking her clients with someone she trusts
Yes.
to a degree, so that there are clients when she comes back into the salon. That maybe Leisha Thompson wasn't better than she was, and also works, within the same city. So 90% of her clients go to Leisha after she comes back, right?
I see what you're
I'm thinking
saying.
about it
Yeah.
from the concern of the beauty professional, right? And then, of course, there's the concern of the beauty professional who's doing the filling in,
Yeah.
which is, okay, I'm now trying to fill in somebody else's shoes. It's very difficult. I got new formulas. She likes to do color this way, although I've been trained that way. She uses a different color line than what I'm used to. Or, I'm not so good at cutting short hair. She does have a lot of short hair clients or whatever. And then it has to be worth it for me to possibly move temporarily.
So let me start with the person that we are fulfilling in for. So I would say that fear is something that is more prevalent when you are just referring your stylist out, because they're already located and they're already established in your same town. the beauty of what we do is we don't live there. We are traveling to you, and when we're done with your leave, we leave. So that's kind of the beauty of, like, I think that is such a huge trust builder, because we're coming in and we want to do the best job possible and be able to fulfill the services as you would as much as possible. And so we can still give your clients a great service and a great experience. And when all is said and done, the whole point of kind of what we do is to continue to travel or move about. And we're not coming to your town to build our business with your business. So I think that's kind of almost more of a fear if you are just doing like how typically people do now is they look to the stylist in their salon first. Okay, who has opening to keep them here? Okay, maybe I can refer like 20% there. Cool. So now I still have about, let's say, another 60%, because there's 20% of your clients who probably could wait a couple months. You know, maybe they're more low maintenance. Maybe they just don't want to even think about seeing anybody else, because there's always a small percentage of clients that are going to be diehard you. So you're still working with about 60% of your clients. So now you have to start outsourcing, and maybe you have some friends that you trust. Is it enough to fulfill? I don't know. But there's still that fear there that if they go to your friend, or whether they're not a friend of a stylist, who's to say that they don't love that color line better or that stylist better or things like that? And they're already established and set. Maybe that salon's closer to where they live, than your salon. So there's just, I think, not to make it all about a fear-based thing, but I think that is more of a fear with how we typically do things, which is why when I've talked to stylists about how did your maternity leave go? How did you prepare for it? What was it like when you came back? It is very common to hear from stylists that they lost clients when they came back. Not everybody. There are definitely some that are able to really retain most of them, but that's kind of one of our selling points is we can give you like maximum retention, because we're coming in and coming to your same space, your same salon, using your same product, so we don't have to worry about any kind of skin reactions from a whole new product that they're not used to having on their scalp. And we're coming in with the same experience that you have already kind of sold them on. Like, they love you for a reason. So I think that's kind of really the real benefit of utilizing us, because your clients can still get the consistent appointment that they want, but you're indirectly nurturing them. And, whether we're paying for your rent or you're getting income after, there's like an income benefit there too. As somebody who works with your clients, they get to tell me things with how past maternity leaves went. And I will tell you, like, one of the biggest things that clients are so thankful for, like, when we're using their service is that they get to come to the same place and they get to have a similar experience. They don't have to think about, where am I going to park at this other salon? How long does it take me to get there from work over there? Like, little things like that we don't think really matter, but to our clients, it really does. It goes such a long way. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The convenience is amazing. Nobody wants to disrupt the whole apple cart, when you have a good business. So it's very enticing for those reasons. Absolutely. Okay, so then from the standpoint of the traveling hairdresser, it's quite a big ask, isn't it? I mean, I mentioned when I was going through just my off the top of my head concerns, like the difficulty of filling in for somebody else and trying to do things the way they do it. You're moving, which is such a big thing, I think, for most people. So how do you mitigate that problem? Are you finding enough hairdressers who want this kind of traveling sort of situation?
So this part of it is not for everyone. This is probably not even for, I don't know, like, probably a lot of the people in the industry really love what they're doing and do not want to, like, disturb that. There is definitely a small part of people who are just looking for something different. Maybe they want to be able to experience more. Maybe they want to travel. Maybe they're actually thinking about getting closer to retirement and they want to have a little bit more freedom with how they kind of start to navigate into that. Or maybe they are a retired stylist, but they still want to kind of be able to do some hair here or there. Maybe you're someone who wants to live in 2 different locations for the year. So maybe you want to be able to just or instead of building your own clientele, just fulfill for others. Because I know, like in the beginning, you kind of said it's almost harder to be in this role. I think it really depends. For me, in the very beginning of this podcast, we were talking about how I felt like something I was really good about was really communicating and consultating. So like doing new clients, because it's almost like you're just working on a new client every single time. That's actually something I feel like I'm pretty good at. So some people might enjoy almost working on new clients more than retaining their current clients. So rather than feeling like you need to relocate all the time and build a new clientele, this is just a different option for people who just maybe want something different. They don't want to necessarily do the work of building a clientele in that area because maybe they don't even want to be there the whole time. Like I said, I've talked to some people who want to just be able to have an option in the summer to be able to go fulfill a contract. They still want to do hair. I have like my team member now, she's also getting ready to move into an RV and she just wants to slow down a little bit, but she still wants to do hair. And another person that I'm talking to now about joining the team, she is someone who is kind of just gotten a little bit, I think, to the end of like her career as like in a suite, and she's thinking about retirement in the next like 10-20 years, and she's like, I kind of want to just do something different before I go fully retiring. So I think it really depends on your circumstance and what you're looking for, but I'm very aware that this is not for everyone, and it's not even really an ask of like, oh, you need to move everywhere. You know, not everyone needs to live in an RV, but there are actually a lot of really great furnished rental findings that you can do where it's like, if you just want to spend like 3-6 months somewhere in an area, go for it. And here's a way that you can work while you do it rather than using up all your money to do that too, you know? So it's not exactly
it's super interesting.
Yeah. Like I think if you're a stylist who are still you still want your clientele, you still kind of want your location, then I don't know if this would be honestly the best fit for you. I think it is a little bit different. Because then, you almost run into that conundrum of like, oh, well, now you have to have somebody fulfill your clients. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's totally personal, and I think you know, you're well aware that in this industry we have hairdressers who like all different kinds of lifestyle and all different ways of being a hairdresser, and you've found something very interesting, and it's absolutely going to appeal for certain people who want a different kind of career. So when somebody, so do you have kind of a stable of hairdressers who've reached out to you or you found and they've said, Leisha, I want to try this, you know, but I only want to do maybe the Western United States or something like that. Do you have a group of people?
So we are still a very, very baby company. So I only have one team member right now, but I'm looking to start gaining some team members going into 2025 because we've gotten to the point where we are actually pretty full for the rest of the year, which is really exciting. It's obviously the place that you want to get to, but I'm kind of at the point where we need to start kind of branching out a little bit more. So because requests are coming in more, the awareness has kind of gotten out more, like people are hearing about this, and for people who, you know, maybe don't have any other resources, like I know we kind of mentioned a little bit about like short-term disability, you know, even with paid family medical leave, the stylist that I just covered for had paid family medical leave. But she was still concerned about, it wasn't really income that she was concerned about. She was still more concerned about just retaining her clients. So whether you need all three of those things or just one or the other, there are definitely ways to really customize what we do to work with that. So I am trying to kind of build a team and be able to, like I said, eventually I'd love to have people really regionally so that when we have maybe a quick thing happen where like if you go on a skiing trip or something and I mean, God forbid, you happen to break something, not that I want to put that on anybody, but that somebody can come and fill in quickly for you. So that is definitely the direction that we are taking this. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Okay. So, did you say that you just are coming off of a job in Washington?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm just finishing up here in
Okay. Do
Washington,
you?
getting ready to go to California for my next one.
Oh, you got another one lined up,
I have two more lined up. Yeah.
and two more lined up.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so that puts some onus on the next one to be within the time frame that you expect, and hopefully it doesn't go outside of that time frame. So give us an idea. You don't have to tell us details, but
Yeah.
how long is the next one in California?
The next one is for 3 months. So it starts in July. So I actually have the month of June off. This will be my only time off this year. So it's fine that it's kind of just all grouped together into 1 month. And so I'm actually taking a couple weeks of this to really just, my husband and I are going to road trip a little bit as we work down to California. So again, that's kind of also why I'm doing this too. Like I want to be able to have that freedom to take some time in between and travel and experience. It's kind of a reason why I started this. So I have a couple weeks of that, and then I start in July. I work that one all the way to the beginning of October, and then I almost immediately start my next one. So these ones are pretty almost like back to
And
back.
where's that one?
It's also in California. So one is like
Okay.
kind of close to the Napa area. The other one is going to be a little bit closer to San Francisco area. So not terribly far from each other. And that'll take me all the way to the end of the year.
And you're gonna continue living in the RV? I'm assuming.
No. So actually, we are getting ready to move out of the RV. So when we're in California, we're
Ah,
actually moving into a short-term rental. So I felt like it was
got
important.
it.
I wanted to be able to try all aspects of this because I don't expect all of my team members to move into an RV. Like it doesn't have to happen like that. So there's actually
Yeah.
a lot of really great, not that if people want to, obviously that's great, but there's a lot of really great options more now than ever for furnished rentals, like specifically for working professionals, like beyond even Airbnb. So, and there's a lot more people who will offer that too. So we're actually moving into a short-term rental.
Oh, very cool. And
Yeah.
so is it going to be a 3-month rental in the Napa area, and then you go to your second, you leave that place and then you go to your second place? And when you go to
Actually,
the second, well, I'm sorry.
actually, this one is going to be for 6 months. I kind of found one that was almost in between both of the salon locations. So, one of them I'll have maybe a little bit more of a commute than the other, but that doesn't bother me too much. So yeah, we'll be in the same place for the next 6 months.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I mean, it's like the vagabond lifestyle kind of, but in a good way. I don't know, vagabond, is that a good word? I think of it as a good word, but
It
I
sounds
say it and
cool,
then
yeah.
I think, oh, it sounds cool. I think it's cool.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
like, yeah. So, I don't mean any negativity. I think
No,
that's really
no.
cool. And if you've got if you have a presence in the industry, whether it be on social media or whatever, your blog, where a lot of people know about you and can find you and reach out to you for some short-term gigs, I think it's really cool. As long as it fits into your lifestyle and what you
Yeah.
want, what your hubby wants, he's
Yeah.
there too. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's,
that's my next one. What does he do
yeah.
when you guys stop? Like in
So,
Washington, what did he do?
yeah, so everybody thinks my husband is probably a remote worker of some type. He's actually not. So I know I told you
Okay.
he went into landscaping. That landscaping company, unfortunately, was one that shut down in COVID. So in the middle of COVID, when you had to get a job, it was like, what else are you going to do besides Amazon or UPS? So he started working for Amazon in 2020. That's actually still what he does, and it's actually been really cool for us because it is not a travel position, but we've kind of made one ourselves because he delivers for Amazon. He doesn't work in the warehouse, but because Amazon is freaking everywhere now, wherever I get a
Yeah.
request, we find the next nearest warehouse and he just transfers to that. And because they always need help
Amazing.
and he's experienced, it's not been an issue yet. So he's getting
Wow.
ready to
That's
just
so
transfer
cool.
to to the Bay Area warehouse. So yeah.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I
But
love
I
it.
have like
I was
also talked.
excited.
I have also talked to someone
Please.
who has kind of been interested in doing something like this because her husband does do remote work and they want to be able to travel more. But with her current business, it's hard, it's hard to do that. So there is definitely a lot of ways that this could work for some, like if you are in a couple or if you're single or whatever, where maybe you can bring the whole family along, So, yeah.
It's very cool. I was excited to have this conversation, and you did not disappoint. It's a very interesting way to go about things, and
Yeah.
I'm sure there's lots of stories. Normally, at the end of the episode, as you probably know, we do the hair horror story, and there's got to be uncomfortable transitions into somebody else's clientele. There's got to be clients who, I don't know, are difficult. Do you have any hair horror stories?
Honestly, I will say this. Since I have started doing this particular role now that I do full time as the traveling hairstylist, I feel like I have been somehow just so given so much gratitude for the people that I have come across, the people I worked with, because literally every single client has been so open and welcoming. Like, they're so curious about what I do. They ask me questions. Like, they've been so great. And I think they are just so excited to be able to have an easy option for them that they don't have to think about that. I really have not run into many, really not many difficult clients at all. And so since I've been doing this, but obviously as a hairstylist for years, you always have, some things. And I don't know, I guess how much of a horror story this is now, because now almost like mullets kind of came back. But I remember one particular client I used to have who would come in and she would, and she would kind of say
I'm petting my mullet.
Yes, it looks great. But she used to kind of describe this cut to me. And I made the mistake of one time being like, oh, so it's kind of like a cute modern mullet. And that super offended her. She was like, this is not a mullet, but it was very clearly a mullet. And so I always had to make sure when she came in that none of my other coworkers would ever compliment her in the way of saying, oh, that's such a cute mullet. And just it was just always one of those things I had to be so aware of when she was getting ready to come in, because if you told her she had a mullet, she was very, very offended about that. But I'm like, lady, it's a mullet. Yeah. It's cute. It's a mullet, though.
It's a mullet. So, just lean in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just lean into it. Yeah. But now it's kind of a cool thing to have a mullet.
The more you try to hide the mullet, it is. The more you try to hide the mullet, the more the mullet sticks out and makes itself known.
Yeah.
That's the way it works.
I think more of my horror stories since I've been a traveling hairstylist have almost been more just the lifestyle related, just because I have been RVing since I started this.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's ever been in an RV, there's just, okay, so when we were first in Arizona, so this is kind of towards the beginning, we actually found this really cool, very deserty area that we wanted to camp in. So it was kind of fully no hookups, all the things, very self-contained, which, you can do in an RV. It's kind of the nice thing about it. And almost immediately, once we got there, we were there for maybe 3 days, and then our whole water line system broke. And so we couldn't have our water run through it, basically. And it was going to take a couple days for somebody to come get it out. We couldn't find a campground to go to. So we literally kept having to basically get jugs of water, take our RV to this local spot to fill up, because it would give us water for a few hours. And then it ended up being almost 2 weeks before the water situation got fixed. And this was Arizona and prime tourism season. So you just there's no way you can get any camp spot that quickly. And so that first week our first couple weeks were so hard, because we basically were we might as well just live in a tent in the middle of the desert. It's very deserty. The spot we picked, we thought was going to be great. But then the minute the wind would come, it was a sandstorm. We had all these high hopes for this first area, and it was just awful. There were rattlesnakes near us a lot. We were okay, we're too remote. We need to reel it in a little bit, because this is crazy. So Yeah, I feel like
Wow.
that was when we first got in, and so it was just such a rocky start. We were like, "What are we doing? Like, what is going on right now?" So yeah, there's one of
Wow.
those.
That is so interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this story of yours and this business you have. And listeners, if you want this kind of lifestyle, you know who to reach out to now. You
Yeah,
are
either way, yeah.
Leisha.
Yeah, whether
You're
you have an
Leisha.
upcoming leave or if you want to be part of the team, we're both kind of both sides of it. You can reach out to, yeah.
Hit you up on the traveling dot hairstylist or Leisha Sisson, or either.
The traveling hairstylist Instagram, yeah, traveling.hairstylist is the Instagram, and then also, that's the same website, the traveling hairstylists with an s.com. You can find everything on there as well.
There you go. Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.